You're rolling. All right, everybody. We are here again with coffee or drinks with the founder. I mean, it's late here with my good friend, my brother, Charles Clayton. Brother Charles, what we're doing is we're trying to bring people here to Coffee with the Founder as a way to let folks know about the great folks in our network and the great work that they're doing. And so we're glad that you could be here today. Let's start just by you introducing yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Charles Clayton, from Fort Dodge, Iowa. I've been running my own organization in Iowa for the last 15 years, athletics for education and success, local nonprofit that I tell people if you took a YMCA, took a Boys and Girls Club, you mix them together, you put them on steroids, that'd be us. Because we do a little bit of everything, people. After school programs, daycare, summer programs, feeding programs, backpack buddy programs, athletics, mentoring, counseling. Families need bills paid. We paid rent for families. We put stuff in storage for them. We just really try to make sure we're there for families however they need versus what our mission says we should do for them.
Man, how did this happen, man? I mean, did you grow up thinking you were going to be serving the community in this way? I mean, how did you get to this point?
That's a loaded question. No, I didn't think so at all. You know, growing up, Fort Dodge, small town in Iowa, small Black population, I kind of had my hoop dreams, man. I thought I was going to be a baller, a hooper, and went to college for a year on scholarship at a junior college after getting hurt my senior year in high school. But that fizzled out real quick just because I got kicked out because I was also that brother with an attitude, man. I just wanted to fight everybody. I just had a chip on my shoulder. Landed back in Fort Dodge, got in more trouble, ended up with a felony. And then the light bulb went off like my life is supposed to be bigger than this, better than this. My mom raised me better than this. I needed to do more for my community. So I got my degree and I said, I want to make sure other young brothers in particular don't fall into the same mistake I fell into, that they have somebody giving them more information up front in their corner, advocating, but also make sure hold them accountable and keep them in check so they can be more successful in life and not go through the things that I went through. And I graduated high school in 1989, and about 2004 is when I started RIISE, Athletics for Education Success, and we've been rolling ever since. We've been blessed, man.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, once you decided, okay, this is what I want to do, I mean, did folks rally behind you? I mean, what kind of hurdles did you have to overcome to really get it to where it is now?
We started, myself, 4 other brothers, all talking, we got to do something. We didn't know a lot. Like, we weren't business people. A few of us, had college degrees. A lot of just working brothers, and just thought, what can we do to help some of the other little knuckleheads in the community, man? And we knew sports, and that's where that name comes from, athletics. So we thought, let's do a basketball camp, a football camp, or a wrestling camp. And when the kids come, we'll give them some pizza and a t-shirt, and stay in school, stay off drugs. And that was the vision. It wasn't like really well thought out or had like in 10 years, 15 years where we'll be. It just that it gained momentum because the kids said, we don't want camps. We want teams, Chuck. Give us a basketball team so we can play. Give us a football team. So, all right, get back with my fellas, and we got to pay for this. So we all coming out of pocket, like, let's pay for it. They need a team. Let's give them a team. Going through teams, and we noticed right away after 2-3 years, they were playing sports. They had a basketball team, a football team, baseball team. We're sending kids to basketball camps, but they were still getting bad grades. They were still being disrespectful in school. They were still getting arrested and sent away to juvie. So we said, we got to do more. So we said, let's do an after school program for 5th and 6th graders. Not knowing, again, well thought out or anything, just We're going to pay the rent out of our pocket. We're going to do what we got to. The 5th and 6th grade after school program soon turned into a K through 8th program in a space we outgrew in a month, because we didn't think, what if you got a 5th or 6th grade kid who has to babysit or watch his younger siblings? And now those younger siblings want to come with him to the program. We can't tell him no. Oh, dang, he's got a 7th or 8th grade sibling or cousin that says, I want to stay out of trouble. Let me come too. So now we're in this studio office space that's maybe meant for 30 people, getting 50, 60 kids a day. And lucky enough, or blessed enough, because I said God has blessed us through this whole thing, we were right next door to our local United Way in Fort Dodge. And they saw all these little kids that normally would be the bad kids, the labeled kids, the juvenile delinquent kids, opening up doors for people, carrying boxes in the building for people. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, being very respectful. And they said, we want APHIS to run our summer program and our after school programs because you guys seem to have a good feel on this. And from there, with a little bit more of their backing, their funding, and connecting us to a few places, we were able to rent out a bigger space. So we went into another space for about 5 years, and it was great, but the building was going to be sold. We were blessed again, Eddie, because lo and behold, the Fort Dodge school system said, we're selling an elementary school building with about 1.5 acres of land attached to it. And so I did my due diligence and called around town, and nobody wanted the building. But my mom was a custodian growing up. She knew all the custodians in the school district. She gave me all the numbers to call. They all said, buy the building because, yeah, it's bad, but it ain't that bad. You can get some use out of this building, Chuck. There's gonna be some things you gotta fix, but it ain't gonna cost you millions of dollars or whatever it may be. We got an old school building and 1 acre or so of land, like you've seen when you came up for me, for $1,000. This was in 2010. So again, you started in 2004, 2007, we rent out a facility. 2010, we buy an old school building. 2015, we build our own $1 million gymnasium. So we currently have an elementary school building, and right behind it, we have our own $1 million 2-court high school length gymnasium that we do all our programming out of. And along the way, it's just been being blessed, but perseverance, because there's times where, I mean, I was a black man with a felon in a small white town in Iowa, man.
Yeah, man.
There's hurdles, there's adversary, there's roadblocks, there's people not wanting to give you the same grant that they're giving somebody else, or giving me the money that they were given earmarked for black kids, minority juveniles, minority pregnancy prevention funds. Once I broke through the door, there was a lot of people like, we've been keeping this money to ourselves for a lot of years. We're not going to give this money to you just because you come up in here. So it's just being blessed and persevering in the whole time, knowing like, it's not about me. It's about these kids. It's about my community. You got like, no weapon formed against me will prosper. I mean, y'all can't stop this. I'm bum rushing the door and we're going to do this. Like one way or another, I'm going to make it. And hopefully you on my side, because if not, when I get to where I got to go, I'm going to remember why you did it. Yeah. And 2019, 2020, we're still here. We've been in business for 15 years. We have a $250,000 plus budget every year. We have 7 to 10 paid staff every year. Another 10, 15 volunteers. We've put 15 kids in college through athletic scholarships. So it's just been blessed, man. It's been truly blessed.
Man, I remember coming.
I know you do. You didn't think I was going to do it, Eddie. You doubted me.
No, not at all, bro. I felt like, as you said, the perseverance, the determination. I mean, man, it's hard to keep a brother that come from felony to where you are, man, I mean, that's what I saw, man. I felt like there'd be continued hurdles in front of you, as you mentioned, from the funding or withholding the funding. And it's nice to see that you continue to fight through that. But I wondered, and I find this to be the case, and I gotta, I'm a Black man with a PhD, that people still don't trust me.
Yes.
I mean, Black leadership, I find that a lot of people are just not used to people like us in positions of power and influence.
Yes.
So how have you dealt with some of those challenges that sometimes don't have anything to do with your credentialing or your potential, but maybe wrapped up in the fact it's the way you look?
That's also a process, because 2004, 2008, 2010, I came through the door like Public Enemy, yo bum rush the show. Like, I don't care. Like, and I know y'all ain't doing this only because of my color, and I'm telling you it, and I'm hitting you in the face with it, and I'm loud and I'm brash, and y'all gonna hear me. 2008, 2014, maybe a little more quiet, maybe a little more I can go around the corner with this and still get what I need. And now it's just more people know pretty much in my area who I am and what I stand for. So they know what you're getting when you ask Charles Clayton to me. When you ask me to be part of the committee, part of the problem solver brainstorming, you'll get a very proud, opinionated Black man that's gonna make sure y'all don't forget about not only his Black people, but poor people, poor kids, at-risk kids in general. You're not gonna forget about us. I'm speaking on it. You may not ask me back, but I'm gonna tell you up front how it was. And just knowing, I think, Eddie, that I'd already been through so much in life. Dad wasn't in my life growing up, going through my whole thing with being kicked out of college on scholarship, getting a felony, trying to be a dope boy at one time. All of this political BS hurdles they want me to jump through, that's nothing. Like, that's nothing. Like, y'all really want to play this game? This game ain't nothing. I didn't play the real game out there in the streets. So what you asking me to do now, I got you. I got you. We can do this game too. We can do this.
Well, the other thing I know, man, being there with you, and I've always appreciated you supporting me way back when nobody was bringing Dr. Eddie to their community to talk with their kids, work with their kids, man. So I really, really appreciate that. And if I showed any doubt, let me publicly acknowledge and apologize, man, because I'm proud of you, man, seriously, because I know, being a Black man in a town like Fort Dodge, I mean, the hurdles you face. And man, I remember you pointing here, pointing there, saying, this is what I want, man. And I'm so happy, man, proud of you for getting there. I'm wondering, because you're facing kids that sometimes nobody wants.
Yes.
And sometimes people have given up on.
Yes.
So can you just talk to teachers, educators, parents? I mean, if anybody's watching that are dealing with those kids like you and me, and you want to give them some word of advice about, essentially, how to ride that out. What are some key things that you see that sometimes parents are missing or community members are missing in reference to helping a young person that may be dealing with a tough time? Just turn it around, get some folks to believe in them, and then, move to a level that even they didn't imagine. What's your word of advice for folks working with kids that may be having or dealing with some challenges?
Well, one is I'm that kid. So growing up, I was that kid that was in the principal's office my 7th grade year, me and another cat trying to say who can get the most referrals. 65 in 1 year. Kicked out of school 10 times. I'm that kid. And look what I became, because I always had at least a teacher, a principal, a older person in the community that didn't give up on me, that believed in me, that kind of kept working with me. The biggest thing I see with adults that work with kids, I'm not going to put parents in this equation. You got to get away from groupthink. Groupthink will sink the ship because the groupthink says he's a bad kid, he's violent, he's a thief, he's a gang member. His whole family was like that, his brother, his sisters, whatever. You got to erase and you got to stay away from the negative groupthink because that's just a kid in front of you who hasn't learned how to make good decisions yet. How have you already, as a school building, as a police department, as a juvenile court or Department of Human Services agency, wrote off a kid who hasn't learned how to make decisions because everybody around you is saying that negative groupthink? Like, I'm big to push back on people and either, like, I don't do groupthink, I don't do negative talk. Stop, get away from me with that. I'm big on just stopping people on that because I don't want to hear that. Don't poison me before I get to know the young man myself, young woman myself, and meet them and meet their challenges and find out, oh, there's a good kid inside there. There's a good person inside there. But what would I have done if I was in his shoes or her shoes and faced with all their adversity? I might be clowning too. Yeah. I might be acting a fool too. I might be going to school fighting and cutting up too if I was in their environment every day. My biggest thing or my biggest advice would be, don't let your coworkers get you involved in that group think because that'll kill a kid, man. It'll kill him.
Yeah, man, that's important, man. I appreciate that. I was watching an old school educator, a real scholar, and someone I've learned so much about. Jawanza Kunjufu is the brother's name, and he's done a lot of stuff on Black boys. And he was talking about, on average, 400,000 Black boys want to make it to the NBA per year. 4,000 even get to college, okay? Of that 4,000, maybe 35 of them get drafted.
Yes.
Of that 35, maybe 7 of them end up playing on a team, starting, so on and so forth. And of that 7, the average NBA life is 4 years.
Yes, yes.
So he's saying you got really 400,000 kids applying for 7 jobs. And we're losing lots of kids, not because we don't want them to get to that level if that's a goal of theirs, but sometimes that's the only option. So if you're talking to a young kid, WNBA, young lady, young girl, or young boy, young man, NBA kinds of dreams, NFL, pro, all of that, what's your word of advice to them based on your journey? How are you talking to those 14, 13, 12? Because I'm assuming you're encountering them every day.
My big thing is use the sport. Don't let the sport use you. I say that to them all the time. And by that, I follow up and say, whatever this sport is, football, basketball, whatever, do you think you're going to make it to the NFL? It has used up millions and millions of athletes to get that final product they have on TV to make millions. How can you flip that so you use it so it doesn't use you? You can use it by making sure you take every dime and dollar out of their pocket to give you a free education, to give you connections while you're in college, to help you start helping not only yourself, but your family, not only yourself and your family, but your community. Use the sport. We have let sports, athletics, and I'm gonna put entertainment in this box, use us as Black folks for way too long. It's time for us to use them. The money's there to give you a free education, whether that's even 2 years at a trade school. Go junior college and just get a trade. Now you're a welder, now you're a plumber, now you're a carpenter, now you're an auto mechanic. but you got that for free. So you ahead of the game with the kid that had to pay for it. Now you start saving up some money, and in 5 years, you own your own auto mechanic shop. Now you hire some more people from your community, from your hood, from your race. Now you open up a second auto mechanic shop. A third, use the sport. Don't let the sport use you.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's great. So tell me, bro, what's on the horizon? I mean, I feel like I'm talking to a phoenix already. You don't roll from the ash. So talk to me, bro. When you think about APHIS in the next 5, 10 years, you know, Fort Dodge, I mean, what are you thinking? What's in your dreams? What's in your goals as you look ahead the next 10 years?
Well, being able to persevere, stay in the fight, stay in the game, even though you want to give up sometimes, even though you know the deck is stacked against you, it eventually pays off. And we're getting to see some of that payoff now because we've been able to leverage over the last year about $100,000 from our city, from our police department, from our juvenile court service, from our school system, that over the next 5 years, we're going to really think we're going to make even more of a difference. One of the programs we're going to be doing here in Fort Dodge, that if a young brother is picked up by the cops for stealing at Walmart, stealing a bike, get into a fight, the police aren't going to arrest them and press charges on them. They're going to refer them to our diversion program at APHIS. That misdemeanor charge, as long as it's a misdemeanor, not a felony, is no longer going to be their first introduction into the court system, into the police system, getting before a judge and starting them on that path we know that's coming. They're referring them to APHIS. The school system is on board now the same way, that versus having kids, the SRO come arrest them in school, or the SRO has to deal with them, the school system and the SRO and the police department are like, we're going to refer them to APHIS, so we don't start that school to prison pipeline too young on any of these kids. So we've been able to leverage some funding here locally, and a lot of it is by just being in the game so long, man, and putting up with everything we put up with. It's like, APHIS ain't going nowhere, and we still got these problems. And you know, the one person that's been handling these problems pretty damn well is APHIS. Are you finally going to come on board and start helping us? And there's some key leadership now in some of those institutions that I talked about that have been around, and maybe they started off in the trenches with me. So now they've took their time, they went through their perseverance also. So now they're the superintendent of schools. Now they're the chief of police. Now they're the chief juvenile court officer. Now they're the head of DHS. And we're really being able now to say, are leveraging some things that I think when it comes to stopping some of that institutional racism, we're starting to knock really on that wall and break some things down by saying those initial charges, that initial time a 14-year-old goes before the judge, that starts his whole cycle of being introduced into the system, we're going to halt that, man. We're going to intervene with that. We're going to really make an attempt to totally jump over that and send them to a program we have at APHIS that, hey, this is a chance now for you to not get that first charge, and also maybe get introduced to more positive things, some cognitive restructuring counseling and things like that.
Yeah. Now, can you, Charles, talk a little bit about the work white people are doing there in Fort Dodge in the community as police officers or school teachers, as educators, as juvenile court or folks involved in the system? Are you seeing any work on their part? Because it feels like to me you are grinding day to day, you know, getting these kids to understand that this is not the path. This is a better way. And sometimes when we see folks like yourself making that effort, if the folks in the community are part of some of these systemic institutional designs are not doing similar kind of work, it just makes your work tougher. It's not that it's impossible.
Yes.
It just makes it tougher. So are you seeing any work on behalf of police, educators to better educate themselves from the vantage point that they sit, so that that we can be really helping kids from both the community effort like you, but also the people in some power positions?
I see people in leadership positions being more willing to listen and help. There ain't a lot of work still going on, but at least now getting the ear of those people in that community, in our community that have those positions, it's a lot easier than it was in 2004. And it isn't a tone deaf ear. Some people will lean you their ear, but it's tone deaf. They ain't hearing you, but they know they got to go through this song and dance with you, and you leave and you know they just BS'd you and you're mad and you're frustrated. It's more of a genuine effort out of our leaders now at the city level, the educational school level, the juvenile court level, Department of Human Service level. It's a more willing to listen ear than I think it's ever been since I've been doing this work. There's more work to be done. I don't see a lot of intentional work on their part because I think sometimes white institutions get afraid of saying, we're going to intentionally tackle minority problems. They get afraid of that. Like, we can't say that because then we're admitting there's a problem. Or then people are going to say we're racist on the white side or the black side. Or then. So I think there's still some of that apprehension there not to intentionally do the work, but it's a lot more easier for me to get into these meetings, doors, get an ear, get the right person to listen to me, and get backing and get serious like conversations and backing started.
Yeah, well, it's nice to know that they're not just listening to Jimmy, but they're hearing Jimmy, as they say back in the day.
I did the listening to Jimmy 2004 to 2009, maybe more than that. And so when they came back around this time, I basically told them, I'm not coming back to the table. Like, I was one of the leading states for disproportionate minority contact when it comes to arresting adult males, incarcerating African-American males, the sentencing for African-American males, flip that to also suspensions, expulsions, the proficiency gap for African-American youth. I was always been in the lead, top 5 in the nation for this. So when they come back around now, I've already had these meetings with you and talked with you over the last 15 years. If we're not at the point now we're talking about programming and funding programmings, I ain't coming. Yeah. I got APHIS. I'm already doing my work. You need me more at the table to make you look good, and I know that. And I know that. When the Fed say who you got at the table, you kind of need me at that table. I don't come cheap no more. You finna help me and my people and my program out, or I ain't coming.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because what we're finding, we're doing this companion book. You know, we did the Guide for White Women Who Teach Black Boys.
Yes.
Now we're doing this book, Teaching Beautiful, Brilliant Black Girls. And we're finding now, bro, that Black girls are getting it even worse.
Yes.
And so what's your sense of some of the challenges some of the young girls in your community, at your program, are experiencing in the schools? And are there some special programs you have now related to young girls that can be a part of possibly the future of APHIS?
Some of the struggles, geez, man, that's such a loaded question because they have it harder. One of the reasons it's still harder, I think, for a Black female to get to the position I'm at or you're at. I think it's still, they have more challenges than we have to get there. And so there's less of them on the front lines by simply, there's more roadblocks for them to get there than it is, even though it's hard for both of us to get where we've gotten, I think it's even harder for them. So Fort Dodge in particular, we're lacking African American females that have the flexibility, career-wise, lifestyle-wise, to really get back in there and mentor and help out and drop those seeds of knowledge to help these young girls out. We really are at an impasse here, and I've really talked to my board about this, about we need to develop some more programs for not only young Black girls, middle school or high school, but the 20 to 35-year-old adult females. I just think that there's so much work and hype about the hyper-vigilant, over-masculine African-American male that white America is so afraid of. The Black females kind of get left in the dark, man. They kind of being forgotten about. And if we don't give them as much love and as attention, how are we going to raise better boys? How are we going to raise better families? How are we going to raise better communities if we don't have our women involved in this, man? So we have a few new programs coming up that we're going to do. One's the Dare to Be Queen curriculum that we're going to start up with a mentoring group. We've got some really like strong drive to get young Black girls involved in more athletic activities or extracurricular activities. Yeah. So when I say extracurricular activities, that could be a drum line, that could be a dance crew, that could be a STEM club, that could be a reading club, but to get them involved in something extra in their life that maybe in our community, they don't see anybody else, their skin color, their gender doing at all. Yeah. So I think that's our next big challenge as Black men. How do we make sure that our sisters don't get left out or keep getting forgot about because all the focus is on that scary Black male that white America don't know how to control, and if we throw them a couple bones, maybe they calm down. Yeah. What about our sisters? I mean, if we're going to really tackle this thing, we got to figure out a way to get them at the table also being successful with us. More successful, because I'm not saying that none are. More successful with us.
Yeah, we got a couple more minutes here, bro. I appreciate that. And I'd love to continue to stay in touch about how we can partner, particularly as this new book project rolls out, because I've learned so much myself in that area, spending so much time around Black boys and on Black boys issues. It's just helped me out. So yes, we'll keep collaborating about that. Let me ask you this. If there's a room full of kids of color, kids in general, but I'm talking specifically kids where we come from, who maybe brushed up against a little trouble or maybe flirting with getting into some trouble, what's your word of advice to young kids that, you know, may feel like the tables are against them, the tide is against them, that they don't know if they can make it through? If you had a chance to inspire a group of kids, all kids, I would say, but specifically kids of color, around your life and your life's journey, what's your short message to them to inspire them to keep them going?
You're right. The odds are stacked against you. You're right. Life ain't fair. You're right. It's only because you're Black. You're right. This shit ain't right and it ain't fair. But because of your ancestors and where you come from, you can make it out of this. You are stronger than this. You are better than this. Not only can you beat it, you can control it. So beating it is one thing. Nah. Not only can you beat it, you can control it. You can flip this whole thing on its head, and you can be the one calling all the shots and being the one in control of your future, your destiny, your community, and everybody that comes after you. I think we get short-sighted sometimes with civil rights, I guess is the best way I can say it, or Black rights. It's like, it's bigger than that, man. It's that we got to control things. I don't want to be equal. We don't need to be equal. We got to control the narrative. Let's control our own narrative about the Black community, about you, young brother, you, young sister. You control your narrative, how successful you're going to be, and how you're going to work up out of this, and what your future's going to be like. Somebody else can't control your narrative.
Let me ask you one last thing before I let you go.
All right.
Well, actually, two things. One, what's it like to sign the front of the check instead of the back of the check? What's that feeling like? What's that like? Because you know, I don't even know if you picture that, but I just want to know what's that like before you go, just so people have a sense of signing the front of the check.
I just recently hired one of my homeboys that I had been cool with for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And he asked me that question. He was like, man, your name is on my check. You signed my checks. And I was like, man, there was a time when I first started APHIS and we really started getting on, I was really like, that was a cool thing. But it's like, it's really more like that's a small part of the pie. Like, I'm signing the check, but I'm still getting the money from a bank we don't own. I want to own the bank that I signed the check that you go cash. I want to own the supermarket that after I own the bank, sign the check, cash the check, you spend it at my supermarket. It's like, man, there was a time I really felt good about that, but it's like, that's small thinking, man. Like, let's own that bank too. Let's own the place they go spend that money online or at the supermarket or at the gas station. Let's make sure all that money, there's a complete circle.
Yeah.
Right with us.
Man, I appreciate that, man. Always inspiring, man. Always educating, not only the kids, but I mean, just people around you, man. I have always appreciated that, man, that you are just glowing and resonating high levels of achievement and success, man. So I'm proud of you, bro.
I appreciate it, man. It comes a lot from the doctor, man. You know, you somebody always think about, like, if I'm doing something, how can I get the doctor involved, man? Because it's like, people gotta know we got Dr. Eddie Moore out there doing his thing. Like, our kids gotta know, our people gotta know. So coming from you, man, that's greatly appreciated, because you're always in my thoughts of how can I get the doctor involved with things, man.
Man, well, you know, if you need me, I'm there. I think we got to talk about some next level supermarket, bank ownership, property ownership initiative. I'd love to talk to you about that as we both look at our nonprofits. You're in Iowa, I'm in Wisconsin. There's no reason we can't collaborate, man.
I agree.
So let me ask you the last question. What are you watching, man? I know you barely have time, but when you have time to sit down and chill, is there anything you're watching on TV or you're reading or you're listening to you would recommend to my followers, to our listeners?
Give me just a second. So watching, that's easy. I'm watching The Last Dance. I am all on that Michael Jordan Last Dance saga right now, man, because that thing has me totally waiting for the next Sunday to come up, because I'm loving that series as a kid who went through the 80s hating Jordan because I was a Magic fan, but eventually I had to give Jordan his props, dude. I had to.
Okay.
As for what to read, man, I'm on the audiobooks majorly right now. So books that we need to read, we would like to read, I would say Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Wealth Choice, The Future of Black America, A Business in Black America, Stay In or Cash Out. I would say those are three books, along with Dr. Cornel West, Race Matters in the 25th Century. Those are some books that all of us need to read. All of us really need to get in touch with.
Charles Clayton, man, it's always good to have you, man, to be in touch with you. We got to be in better contact, and I'm going to promise to play my role in doing that, bro. I appreciate you, man, and you be safe. Keep doing what you're doing. Much love, bro.
Stay safe, man. Love you, man. Take care now.
All right. Peace.
All right.